Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good day.
As we're getting my shit together this morning.
But as I said, I appreciate you getting your shit together because it's so beneficial for both of us.
Keep us both in line, right?
That's right. And I appreciate you.
Thank you. Well, you know what? I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We've
That's what
grown
it's
so
all
much
about.
together. I don't know if you heard. I said we've grown so much together.
Oh, we have.
Been amazing, right?
We have. Because we have a client that we both have seen, and she's like at like 45 or 47. I don't even know where she's at right now from the beginning of our videos. And that's pretty. I'm like, well, you get to see how we've changed over time.
Yeah. Because she just did a class with us in person. And
Yes.
so what the videos that she's watching is from 2020. She's still in 2020.
Gotcha.
She's on like 43. Well, she might be in early 2021. And she just did a class with us about a month and a half ago. And I'm sure the difference, even what she may have seen or acknowledged then. So by the time she watches this,
Yes.
we're just sending the shout out. Thanks for hanging out with us.
And I haven't talked to her yet, but I'll see her soon. And it's like, even when she sees this, she'll know who it was regarding. And already the transformation from the time that we had seen her till recently that I had talked to her a couple weeks ago, totally different.
Nice.
So a total shift. So it's just to remember when we go through things in life, I guess, because, here I am sitting here thinking, I have no flipping clue what we're talking about. But it's to remember when we go through these things in our life that seem so crazy. There's always the good to find in everything. And sometimes it feels like you're really, really reaching. But when you can get to that place, it's being okay with that. It's being okay with that. I was listening to a conversation this morning and it was talking about apology. So instead of apologizing, having all these excuses and everything else, because that puts such a turmoil on the person to apologize or the other person's expectation for an apology. So all this energy is put out there, right? And it doesn't feel comfortable. And then they brought up when someone tells you, oh, I'm sorry for your loss, or I'm sorry, like for me, and I've brought this up before, for me going through my experiences, I'm sorry feels so bad. So it's like telling them that I'm thinking about you, I'm sending you love and light. This person was so amazing, telling them stories about the person. And it just reminds me I'm glad that I've learned something along the way. So I found my good little nuggets in all the processes and I'm still finding them. But it's like I said, sometimes it feels like a reach, but once you get through something at the other side of it, you really see the growth that it brought forward and the peace.
One of the other things I learned recently too was instead of saying I'm sorry for your loss is how can I support you?
Yeah.
Instead of, hey, call me if you need anything. Because we all say that, right?
Yeah.
None of us do. Let's just be real. None of us do. So it adds a little more compassion too in saying, how can I support you?
Yeah, it really does.
Now I'm asking you, Bev, in what way can I show up for you? Right? Instead of, hey, just call me if you need anything. I'm guilty of that.
That's empowering. And I kept asking for prayer. Just say a prayer for me, or say, just send me some love, or because for me, energy is everything. It really is. And I can feel it. So those times that who knows who was praying for me, those times that I was so down and then all of a sudden I was uplifted, or the next morning, I'm praying and asking for God for help. I don't want to feel like this anymore, but who knows how many other people's in my life contributed to that, in the physical and non-physical.
And since you've had the experience, then, when you look at the good side of things, and everything happens for a reason type of perspective is you've had a few losses knowing that we don't lose anything.
Yeah.
But you've had a few people transition from the physical world back to spirit. And with those experiences and each one has been a different type of grief for you.
Yes.
It's been different for each one. One's been your mom, a brother, and then your husband. And having that in its life experience, right? And so if we think about it, we're here on this earth. To me, we're getting a PhD in life, man, and it sucks. I mean, it's a lot of study, it's a lot of work, there's a lot of play too. We want to have time for play, but there's a lot of study in ourselves, if we so choose, to get our life experience PhD. And we're going to have so many experiences, right? And so you take that information and what they say in like the marketing world, it's you take your mess and make it your message. And so that's experience that you have within yourself that you can relate to other people. Doesn't mean that your experience is the same as others, but you can relate to them on many levels to help them move through whatever shitstorm they're walking through.
And it helps create understanding, right? So for me, when you said each one of those things, I don't know if you even said their names now, because I think I was running, I mean, not their names, but just who they were, but I was running down that list within myself. And the three commonalities are, it's understanding. I have learned so much about their lives. I have a different understanding about them. I've had growth because of them. So there's a constant shift going on. Gosh, I couldn't even probably express it more than anything, that nothing, even though they're not in the physical body anymore, because most of us are not in the physical body. We just happen to be in the physical body partially right now, because most of us is spirit outside this body. This body is small, but we're still having the growth. We're still having the communication. When I'm struggling, we're struggling together. It's not that because and I say struggling together, I mean that they're there, the supports are there, right there, as soon as I'm ready to allow it to come in. And the support's always been there. So it's like, it's just the constant growth. There's nothing that is ever left unsaid, ever. It's a constant, you're constantly evolving. It's changing your emotional feelings from time frames so that you can move forward and see things differently. And it's not changing it to manipulate it and make yourself feel better about doing stuff that's wrong. It's just about, it's really just about checking in with yourself and that emotional feelings that you had at that time. It's just looking in at it and seeing from my perspective now how much growth that I've had from that. Ooh, I have an understanding about that. Guess what? I made mistakes. I'm not going to say I'm sorry because I made mistakes, but I'm going to do better.
Right. Because really it wasn't a mistake. It was how you knew how to show up in that time.
Yes.
So this brings me up because I'm glad you brought this up, because now I'm ready to talk about it. I wasn't ready to talk about it a couple months ago. I know we've talked about how we've jacked up our own kids. We were jacked up as kids, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And then because that's what, we had these beliefs and thoughts about how adulting is supposed to be and how you're supposed to raise your children and all that we took that information and then we had children and, we pretty much jacked them up because we ourselves, even as adults, were jacked up. Right. And so in May, my son sent me a text and it was the best way. He even said in his text, he said, this is the best way I can express myself without getting his words all jumbled up. Right. It was a clear way he could express himself. And he forgave me. Giving me forgiveness for not showing up for him. There was a situation that occurred, and when I brought it to his attention, I didn't know how to handle it. Right. So I shared it with him. And in my mind, and it's still true today, no news is good news. So if you don't come to me, then there's not a problem. Everything's good, right? And so he is 27, getting ready to turn 28. And he said, I forgive you for not checking in on me, for not asking me how I was doing. And first, I just want to say that when he sent me, I mean, it was a pretty good long text, and there's a lot involved. And he's, I was surprised that what showed up in me, and the strongest was embarrassment. I was embarrassed because of the way I didn't show up for him. And I had to work through that, man. It took me a couple weeks. I had to do some inner soul searching to move through that, because that was pretty heavy for me, that I felt embarrassed that that's the way I showed up as his mom at that time. And then at the same time, knowing that that's the only way I knew how to show up at that time, because that's what I had. I didn't have the tools to help me through my own process of what was happening, let alone guide him through it. So, and since we've talked, and he said, it's like, Mom, you didn't know how to do anything different. And I'm saying, it's like, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to be there for you, because I didn't know how to be there for me. And so giving ourselves, this is what we talk about, giving ourselves ease and grace for what we have done in the past, because that's what we knew how to do. And we can't do different until we know different. I even put a post on where I shared a meme on Facebook, and it said, like, things we were told as a child. And one was like, well, if you swallow a watermelon seed, it's going to grow inside you, right? So it's just silly things like that. And I shared it, and I put on there, I was like, yep, I was told most of these things. And my mom replied to it and said, well, that's what I was told too. And I just said, and that's what we do. We share what we think we know, and until we know different, we do different. So it's okay.
It is
What
okay.
we've done in the past, it's not mistakes. It's what we knew how to do.
Yeah.
And it really forgiving ourselves, right? Saying, look, that's what you knew how to do. So give yourself some ease and grace, forgive yourself for the way you showed up, and learn from it to be and do better now and moving forward.
Just even being in the processes of a lot of that stuff, anything that we might have regrets about or anything like that. It's even the manners that the solutions that came forward at that time didn't even feel good. Do you know what I mean? So for me, like separation, there was a lot of things that it just didn't even feel good. So if I had any idea, listen to your emotions, do what, and then do what with that? Like, that sounds like a crock of crap. It really, I mean, like, what do you do with that? I don't even know that I could have heard anybody that was trying to say these things at that time, because I wasn't in the space. That's why it wasn't in my experience at that time. And that's okay. I'm blown away when I see you've shared books with me. I've got books that they're freaking back from 2000 and 1990. They're back in the 1800s. There's people that have been living this way, and it's like, now they're reaching us. Now they're reaching me, after all this time. It's like, look at the processes, but at the same time, it's to look at those processes and celebrate, because look where I'm at now. Not, oh my God, look how, I was so horrible back then. I could say all those things. I have said all those things, but the truth is, it's like, oh my gosh, look how much I've grown. Look how much I've changed. Look how I can look at things so differently now. I don't even get upset about things. I'm not even the same. I blow myself away, because I don't even think that I could go back to the way that I was, I don't know, 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. I don't think I could go back to that same person, because I've changed so much. And with that change has brought more peace inside. And
Right.
now I'm recognizing certain things. I'm still noticing a defensiveness popping up within my side of myself lately, which is great. But I have an awareness of it, and I'm going to do better, honestly, because that's like, that doesn't feel good to me anymore. That might have been my motivation. That might have been whatever I used it for. Maybe even being a vampire, drawing off of somebody else's energy. Not sure. We've all, if I was to look back at everything and say, I was never a narcissist. I was never a vampire. That's a bunch of bullshit. At some point in my lifeline, I have been. I've been in all those. That's how I can recognize it. And that's okay. Guess what? I learned some good nuggets along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I started teaching an empath class, one of the things that we do is we're attracted to narcissists because we think we can fix them. And when I was running through the list about narcissistic tendencies and characteristics, I was like, holy shit, I'm a narcissist. No, that's the way I was showing up then.
True.
But now, because I have an awareness of it, I can be better at how I show up in my life without those characteristics or tendencies.
And I feel like anybody may have been, when you can ask yourself that question, oh my gosh, am I? You don't even flow with that any longer. That's not
Right.
something that you may have been at one time, but it's like, am I? No, I'm not. But again, that goes back to drawing off energy off of others. It's taking energy from others. That's just another form of taking it, whether people understand it or not. But when they're in that space and you're constantly feeling like you're obligated to do something, or you've got to apologize, and you feel all those feelings for something like, I didn't even do anything wrong, but I got to apologize so I can sue this over so everybody can get along, and that I'm not causing a ripple in the pond, or, all these processes that I'm recognizing. Even still, like, I've grown through all this stuff, and in the last few days, I'm recognizing, oh gosh, I'm doing that because I'm worried the other person's going to do this. Why? I don't need to do this anymore. So all these little things, but if I hadn't been on the journey that I've been on, I wouldn't be looking at this stuff. There's no way. It would have been overwhelming.
Yeah. And I've had people come to me and say, thank you. And I ask them, why are you thanking me? What is it I did? Or I want to know, right? And it's the same thing. If I said, I'm sorry, what are you sorry for? Because a lot of times when people say, I'm sorry, it doesn't have anything to do in their mind. What they're saying I'm sorry for has nothing to do with the situation. And even, like in the grief, I'm sorry for your loss. Why are you sorry? This has nothing to do with you or the way I'm feeling, or it's like not your responsibility to feel that
True.
way. I'm sorry I'm late. Well, did you have any control over the accident that happened that delayed your getting here? It was meant to be, for whatever reason that happened. Instead of saying I'm sorry for that, it's like, thank you for waiting. Thank you for waiting for me, or thank you for allowing me to join in on this meeting even though I'm late, or something different than I'm sorry. That doesn't even, those two words don't even feel good to me. I'm just
They don't.
But
But that just goes back to paying attention to how we feel. So it's like we always talk about paying attention to how you feel. But I'm on this journey, just like you're on this journey. We're all on this journey. And we start recognizing the same things that we do. It's not that we contradict ourselves on purpose. It's just that we just get lost in this stuff sometimes too. And then, but there's more of an awareness of it. And it's like, oh, it doesn't feel good because I've been paying attention to how I feel. I've been being my best friend. Oh, what's wrong, best friend? What's going on over there? Well, this is what's going on right now. Oh, well, did you hear how that sounded when you just said it? Is it true? Okay. How can I feel better? And if you did do something that you felt that was wrong at the time, how can I do better? It's like, it's just asking. All these little things happen for us just to ask for more. That's all. And it's not more like, I want more than $5 billion in my account. I'll be all right with a couple bill. It's all right. It's no big deal. But I mean, it's just being okay. It's being okay. And it's honoring yourself to ask. Gosh, it's a strong person that can ask, right? I feel like it's a strong person that can cry. It's a strong person that can be vulnerable. It's a strong person that can ask for something. I'm being told all the time, what's the worst thing that can happen? You already got to know. Why don't you just ask anyways? Could be a yes. Like it's just that simple, because we get so afraid of putting ourselves out there. And and then getting embarrassed, right? Because that goes back to embarrassed because I asked, oh, what if I'm not, what if, oh, and then checking in with myself, maybe I don't really deserve this. Because that's been something that's shown up for me before too. Well, I'm not going to do that. I just don't think, that and I didn't put it into the words of deserve. I put it into words, oh, I don't think I did. I don't need anything like that. That's just not me, but I deserved it. So I limited what was flowing into me right in that immediate moment. And now I'm changing it. I'm open and I'm a willing spirit.
I'm willing to receive all the goodness that the universe
That's
wants to
right.
give me. Yes, please, and thank you.
Amen.
Bring it on, bring it on. I'm ready now. I'm ready now.
Yeah. Right now, it's okay. It's solid, guys. Come on, bring it on.
That's awesome. And saying thank you when you do receive. That's all you gotta do. Thank you.
All the time. That appreciation, I listened to that Suzanne Giesemann, which I've talked about probably the last couple episodes, but she is so appreciative for all the guidance and help that she gets from her guides, from people. I mean, it's just like all the time. She's constantly saying thank you, but it's a genuine, I can feel it. It's not just thank you.
Thank you.
And then the person that doesn't feel it, because we've talked about that recently too, is really checking in with yourself. For me, it was putting my hand on my heart and like, really, thank you. I really appreciate you right now, because that brings me present. That makes me aware of my emotions at that time. How am I feeling when I'm doing this appreciating? So just for me, that's what's been very beneficial, just to help me be having more of an awareness.
Yeah.
But to do it constantly, like she does it all the time.
Yeah.
All day. I'm
That's
so
good.
looking. Yeah, she's got this book out, Wolf's Message. Have you read that? Well, I've got it coming. So it's like talks about synchronicities. It talks about a person that was schizophrenic in two different worlds. It talks about all the spiritual stuff. It talks about like he has a whole room with all these pictures that he's put thumbtacks in, like all the walls are covered. And they had a photographer after he had passed away because he was struck by lightning, sitting under his tree while he was meditating. But they went through all the pictures.
Wild way to go.
But he knew, because his soul knew, because he even walked in, he was at a coffee shop. He handed someone a rock because he's always liked to give people rocks. And he told her, I got to go now. It's time for me to go.
Wow.
So he went out, he knew. And then they went back to his room. And once the photographer was done, they took all the pictures down. When they started looking at the pictures and the sequences, and he actually was letting him know, like he drew the tree that he was going to be sitting under, and he drew a tree with 2 roses underneath it. The parents hadn't seen this yet. They found out where he had passed away. They stopped at a place on the way there and grabbed 2 roses and stuck it right in the spot, because there was a picture afterwards, not knowing that was, he already saw these things. These things were already in his experience. And then maybe, I don't know if I brought this up, but then maybe not. I got so excited because I got a message and I thought it was from Freeman, but I was on the highway, so I couldn't look at it. And I just ordered the book. So I'm driving and I stopped, I'm on the dirt. So I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and check this message. And I look down and I'm listening to Suzanne Giesemann talking. She's in the middle of an interview. And I'm listening to her and I'm like, oh, Wolf's Message is going to be here next week. And then she brings up right at that moment, Wolf's Message. Then she starts talking about the book. And it's like synchronicities, but that's what they said, that people will notice a lot of synchronicities as soon as they get this, because they'll see all the synchronicities in the book too, how everything was basically set up like he knew all along. And it's talking about health, our mental health and stuff like that. They're talking about it in a way that's, it's society, like it's shunned upon or it's frowned upon, or you need to be on medication, or need to, all these things. And it's like, it's a person that's in 2 worlds at one time. There was never a problem. He was an amazing soul. It's just how we go back to the same thing. We have an expectation of the way people grieve, not we anymore, but people in general have an expectation of how someone's to grieve, how someone's to respond after the passing of a loved one. There's just all these ideas that people think that they should fit into. And that's the same thing with mental health. They think everyone has to be the same, and we're not supposed to be the same.
Right.
And just because we're all different and crazy and whatever, because we're all crazy, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with us. And it's to celebrate those people that can come out and say those things. Man, they live in an anguish of their own because of what's put upon them, I feel like, instead of them being allowed to just feel this energy. And he grew up in a very loving family, even with everything that which was huge for him, was very supportive for him. But there's like so much messages there, but in all reality, and not to have expectation of people to be any certain way. Observe them and enjoy how they are in their way.
Yeah. Esther and Jerry Hicks, Abraham wrote a series of books called the Sarah books, which is the same thing,
Yeah.
the synchronicities and how everything just lined up, and that they followed that, we call it intuition, and how everything was connected. And I just loved those books. They were wonderful.
They are. And I love those books. I mean, I recommend them. And I'm glad you brought them up, because I even brought them up to the kids, like, hey, I got these books. It'd be a good story to start reading to them. It maybe not be the picture pages, but I'm just thinking about that while they're laying there. Or Vivi comes to take a nap, she can lay down. I'll be like, I'm going to read you a story for a little bit. I just want you to close your eyes and then just see what you see.
Yeah.
It's just to be in that space.
Yeah, and they're fun books, because it's about a little boy and a little girl, and they're easy reads, they're fun, and it just really helps you think about. I mean, I thought about it before, synchronicities, but now, after reading the books, as I was reading them, I would think about my life, and I'm like, man, look how all these things were connected. One thing led right into the next. And then that's how, thinking that everything happens for a reason, we don't like to hear that when we're in a storm. We really don't like to hear that. We don't want to hear it. This is bullshit. I don't want you saying that to me, because right now I'm walking through a storm and that does not jive with me, right? So,
yeah.
However, and it took me several years to be able to look back on my life and go, okay, now I see why I went through these different experiences that were very heavy, very hard. And now no different than you experiencing the grief with at least 3 different people, and the way you've grieved their transition, that you have that information and knowledge and wisdom now with you to resonate with other people. It's the same with me. I went through those hard experiences. I learned to change my perspective and see them differently, see them from a different perspective, and utilize that information now to connect with other people. And so
I
it
agree.
wasn't until, I don't know, 25 years later, after an experience, that I was like, oh, now I see why that happened.
Yeah.
Now I can see how that's been part of my life plan. And
I agree.
It's okay.
It is okay.
Don't stay stuck in the victimhood. That's what I can tell you. Do not stay stuck in the victimhood and rehash the past experiences and beat yourself up over it. That's not who you are. That is not your truth, right? That is not your truth. That is just a way you're beating yourself up, is what is a learned behavior, because you've seen other people do it, and changing your inner self to connect to your truth. And your truth is you're already loved and accepted.
It's true. A lot of the stuff, like we talked about, comes from being kids. You better go tell them you're sorry. You better go say you're sorry. You better go do it now. Okay, then you're going to go to your room. Okay, say sorry now, go to your room. You know what I mean? It's just, there's so much confusion going around with raising of kids, really. And that's where a lot of it starts. And I'm not innocent of that either. I had my tools. That was it. I didn't have like a huge template to pick from. certainly didn't have the internet.
Right.
I did not have the internet for that. And I think maybe if I didn't know how to ask questions, how was I asking questions? How would I even show up to even look up stuff? Because I wasn't asking for, I just wasn't asking questions. And in order to ask questions, if the universe is no different than Google, I mean, in a lot of ways, because if I'm not asking the right question, I ain't getting an answer. If I just sit in front of it and stare at it, well, I'm not going to get any answers without a question. So until we start, gosh, I don't even remember how long ago it was, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, that I even started asking questions. And it was like a big deal. Like, everybody, you should be asking questions. And I still will say it, you should be asking questions, because our questions get bigger. They change. The process becomes so much more. And then the gifts that come from all that stuff, from the questioning. And then when you're paying attention to everything, the synchronicities, right? Because everything's a synchronistic event. We're driving down the highway and we're picking up numbers. That's part of the synchronicities. And it happens all day long. 444, it shows up for me, shows up for you. It's just the way, it's just the way it goes.
When we talk about synchronicities, something that just happened this week, actually, over the past couple weeks. So remember, I was talking about Vishen with Mind Valley, and I said, I was listening to him, and through listening to him, I heard, he talks a lot about the Silva method, which is by Jose Silva, which has to do with hypnosis. So I looked up the Silva method, and then there's a series of not videos, but a series of recordings. So I've been listening to those, and each one pertains to a different hypnosis strategy. And so, here I am listening to these like every day as I'm getting ready for my day. I just turn them on and listen. And then so this is Tuesday for us right now. I was the end of last week. I got a message from a friend who said, "Oh, I haven't had a cigarette since July 7th." And I know this is a difficult transition. I mean, really, for somebody who smoked many, many years, it's, any help they can get. It's like relief for them. So one of the recordings I listened to was about changing habits. So I sent her, I'm like, hey, go listen to this video, right? I sent her the link. Then yesterday, talking to some family members, and they're like having some physical issues. Well, one of the recordings is how to use with hypnosis, using pain management without any drugs or anything, right? So I sent them that recording. So it's not a mistake that, I'm listening to these recordings, even though I'm just listening to them as I'm getting ready for work or for my day, that yes, I'm using it as information for myself and for knowledge for myself. And some of them I have sat and went through the hypnotic process with them. But look at all these other people that, because I listened to these, now I can share this information with them. And so it's synchronicities. It was all meant to be.
It is. And in your intuitive nudges, right? Letting you know, hey, this could be good for this person. Go ahead and share it with them. It's totally up to them how they decide to show up. That's all. It's not, did you listen to that? Have you listened to, oh, well, and you're still complaining about your pain? Okay, well, I sent you something. It's not about any of that. It's about, okay, they're going to stay in their pain until they're ready to be done with their pain. And they're going to ask, and then their asking may bring healing from the universe. Their asking may bring healing from another person. It just depends on what's best for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes what's best for them is knowing that, it is going to come through another person, because it's knowing that someone's listening and is paying attention to you, and you do matter, and they care about you. There's so much to be gained from all that.
That's good awareness. I like that you said that just by me sending that information is a message. I care about you.
Yes.
And here's how I can help you. Here's how I can support you right now.
Yeah, I see you. Yep, that's all.
But the receiver of that information, it's up to them what they do with it. And like
Yeah.
you said, if they choose to sit in their pain and continue to suffer, that's not on me. That's on them. And the reason why we suffer is because we feel like we're not worthy and deserving of anything better. That we have
Yeah.
to sit in our pain. Like that's our punishment. That's our punishment for past stuff. It's
Yeah.
not a conscious thought either. It's a subconscious that how can I suffer over the things I've done? How can
And
I
I deserve it.
suffer? Do it?
And deserving, right? Deserving of that.
Yeah. And how can I suffer over the choices I've made? How can I suffer over the bad things I've said? It's not a conscious thought. It's something that's like one of those little files in our brain that sits there and it says, oh, you still need to suffer. Okay, we're going to give you a physical pain. Oh, still need to suffer. Okay, we're going to, this relationship's going to end. There's all kinds of reasons why relationships are going to end, why you have physical pain, but it's the idea of not getting yourself the help, especially when you ask for it. When you ask for the help and it shows up, no different than me sending those recordings to these people, you are putting it out there. I want help. It's provided. And what you do with it's your business. And if you feel like you'll need to continue to suffer, then don't read the book. Don't listen to the recording that was sent to you. Don't go listen to an influencer. Don't go talk to a financial manager. That's how we continue to suffer when we don't take the information that's been provided to help us, and we keep sitting there spinning our wheels or trudging in the mud or drowning because we're not taking the action steps on the information being provided. We are physical beings and we need each other. We need to help each other. And it doesn't matter how the information shows up. When the information shows up because you've been asking the questions, receive it because you are already worthy and deserving of it. There is no deviation from that.
Yeah, or it wouldn't have shown up in your experience.
Right.
It's synchronicities, right?
Right.
And that's how people are like, no, I don't experience any of that stuff. It doesn't happen for me. No thanks. No thanks. Can you go ahead, take that back? That's not for me.
Right.
Oh no, I don't deserve that. Like all these things that we kind of discount along the way. Nope, not for me.
And check this out. This was so cool. Yesterday I was on a call for a program, and this girl, they were talking to the people who are kind of on the fence of whether signing up for a program or not. And this girl, she's like, well, she had just moved back to the United States from like Ecuador, and her money was real tight, and on and on and on. And she actually had just, because it was a challenge, and she had just won a prize for doing so well with one of the challenges. And she's just super on the fence about joining because she was very limited on the amount of money she had. In the chat box, people were like, hey, do you have a Venmo or PayPal? I can send you money. Let me help you be in this program, because they saw the potential that she had. They saw the message that she had. They saw her compassion and connection with people. And they were just like strangers. Just, hey, let me send you some money to help you because I see the value in you. And that's what we do. That's how we show up. Now, I don't know her response to that. I don't know if she continued. I have no idea. But the idea that people want to help, and we are here to help. And we did a video on this about people wanting to help. Receive. We got to get really good at receiving and saying thank you.
It's true. I had a gal over the weekend in this game I played. She was complaining about not feeling well. I'm like, do you mind if I send you some healing? Of course, when I say, do you mind if I send you some healing? I'm going to be doing a little bit more than that. So I just started doing my healing work on her. I started doing distant energy, and I started writing down everything that I was getting. And for me, it's like, whatever, it is whatever. So I'm writing all this stuff down, and I'm sending light into the places, but I'm also bringing these things to her attention, this process. And she's like, oh my God, you hit on so many things. It's true. I don't know this person. And it's not a pat on my back. Oh, I'm bragging. It's a pat on my back that I'm listening. And I can hear these things. And she's like, I feel so much better. Well, then I just noticed yesterday or this morning, she's like, yeah, I'm just not feeling whatever, but her words again. So it's reminding people too, we get into this habit of being in that space, and maybe that's a victim, because it's like the stuff I was processing is you're holding on to things, you're not digesting things. I mean, I could feel like it goes back to childhood, but I'm really listening. Like if I wanted to do really mediumship stuff, even just for play on a regular basis, I'm like, open to spirit. Hey, I'm playing. I don't know how to do this. Guide me along the way. I'm a willing spirit. I want to show up the best way I can for everyone, for the greatest good of all. And so now this is part of the process. I'm listening to every single detail instead of me questioning it. And I did catch myself a couple times like, I don't know. And then if I heard something outside of myself and then added that in, it wasn't an accurate assessment. It was inaccurate. So it's like all my stuff that I was getting and noticing was there. So it's just staying out of my way. So I would say that to everybody, stay out of your way. And then take whatever information comes in right now. And don't have any attachment to it. Don't attachment of saying even something wrong. Even for me, I'm saying something wrong. Well, guess what? Sometimes I'm not going to get it right. Guess what? I'm okay with that. But I'm going to get the information because it's coming through my perceptions, and that's how it's going to come out. Doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, but I'm going to bring it forth. I'm going to interpret it the best way I possibly can so that I can share it. So sharing it as it comes in, exactly as it comes in, and as the conversation goes, then as I know, and I'm sure you know too, as we're going through in the conversation, then it starts tying everything together. Everything else starts to make sense that you brought up before that maybe didn't make sense to them initially. And it all does. It's like, oh, well, that's why this made sense. And I told her, I did this. I told her that, to ice her back because I felt pain coming from the front. And then all of a sudden it shot straight to my back. So I knew that this was where it was coming from. She had just had some sort of a surgery, and it was on, I don't know if it was the bladder or it was something. I don't think it was the bladder. It was something else with her digestive system, but it was something in that area. And I'm like, she's like talking about how she's not feeling well, and it's all coming since that surgery while she's sitting, taking pain pills, not a flow of energy. And and it's like, I just tell you, I recommend try putting some ice on your back and see if that takes away some of your problem, because I felt the inflammation. And I can't explain how I know it was. Well, it started with the knuckles, actually, the joints and the thumbs. And it's like one showed up and then the other showed up. And it wasn't so much that, it was letting me know. And that's a knowing. It's just checking in with myself and then asking questions again. Okay, well, that's interesting. Why is it showing in both thumbs? Oh, there's an inflammation in the body and the joints. So it's not just located in that space. So it's really just listening to information. And that's the same way we listen to our intuition. That's the same way we listen to our guidance. Which brings me into another thing. One of the things that I heard recently that I thought this was an awesome question. So when we're down and we're beating ourselves up, or we feel like this is something we want to do, and we're going forward, and it seems like we're getting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, it's stopping and asking yourself, what is the best direction for me now? It's just simple. So simple. Like I didn't even think about that. It's like, how come I didn't think about that question? Because I ask questions all the time, but it's just that simple. Just by processing that and sitting with that. And then it's like, or this isn't going easy. What's the easiest possible way this could go? Just it's asking these questions. We have a tendency, people in general, to get wrapped up in the problem and not be so solution oriented. And I'm not innocent of that. I get into that space sometimes too, just less often. And because now I'm asking the questions, oh, well, that sucks right now. How could it be so much better? How could it be easier than that?
How can this just get better? How can it get better than it already is?
Yeah. And we've talked about that, no matter what part of the day or what time of, and what emotional system you're in right that moment, whatever you're dealing with at any moment, doesn't matter if you're on there high, or you're low, it's always asking.
And she was asking, this lady was asking because she wanted relief.
Yes.
So on one side, she wanted relief, and you brought her the information on how to do that. On the other side, on the other side, she doesn't want relief because that could be a way for her to get attention. That could be her way to feel loved. That could be her way of suffering, right?
Yeah.
there's different reasons why she's not pursuing the information, the advice, recommendation that you gave her.
Yeah.
So she's got her reasons, right? She's got her reasons.
Yeah. But it's still for me to be in that space of appreciation, right? It's not that I did anything wrong. So I know that it has nothing to do with me. When I was working with her, hand on my heart again, and I'm just thinking, after I process all the information that came forward, I'm just sending love to all of her. I'm just sending love to all of her. It just doesn't even matter. And it doesn't negate everything that I did. It showed her that this can work. Now it's her perspective on this, but this can work. She can have this healing. And why it only lasted a certain amount of time. What would Jesus say? Or at least I've heard the sayings, quote unquote, talking about when someone's going through something, he's giving them a healing and says, go forth and tell no one, because you go forward and you start talking about, oh my God, I had this and this and this and this, and he made me feel better. All this and this weighs down what made you feel better. It negates the feeling better parts, right? So it's just being aware.
And people give their 2 cents, like, oh, well, that won't last long.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
Or the person telling the story. So this happened because even Esther Hicks talks about it with Abraham, that they told a lady how to fix her eyesight, to help her eyesight get better. And it did. And then she was telling everybody, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened. And because she was saying that, her eyesight went back again. So it's a belief in the process. It's utilized. And one thing I found too is I've asked people when I've given them some things to do to help give reprieve to their body or make changes in their life, and then I see them later and they're still. So I'll just use this lady as an example. You told her to use ice, and then you see her and she hasn't done anything and she's still in pain. There are some people I just look at them and I ask them the question, why do you feel you need to suffer? Because what that does is it changes, it like flips a switch in their brain, like, wait a minute, is that what I'm doing? Yeah. Why do I feel like I need to, right? They start questioning themselves. And so again, I'm just a messenger, planting the seed. Why do you feel like you need to keep suffering? And they can answer it, or then they don't need to answer. They don't need to tell me. But when they say it out loud, then they hear themselves, and then they can acknowledge it better. Yeah. It's an interesting process. And it's not that I'm being mean. It's not that I'm, like, really, you just want to keep suffering? Why? No, it's a compassionate question. Why do you feel the need to keep suffering? And I'll ask them, why are you punishing yourself? Yeah. Because it's the same thing. It's just another way of looking at it. And I don't ask everybody that, but again, that goes back to listening to your intuition. You know when to ask the questions, right. You know when to say whatever needs to be said, because that has the biggest impact to the person, because at that moment, this person can hear this. Right. And then whatever they decide to do with it, if they become defensive, great, you hit a trigger. If they start crying, great, you hit a trigger. It's an emotional release. Either way you look at it, it's an emotional release. Anger, crying, they start sweating profusely. It's all release. All release. Which is interesting. It's interesting that I say that, because with it being the heat that it's been, it's another process for me. The anger that comes up when I get hot. And it's interesting because sweating is releasing, right? So sweating is releasing. I've noticed that I'm around certain people, and if I go to say something and I hold it back, I'll cough. Like, so these are like, there's such little details that I'm paying attention to now that I never would have noticed before, ever. It's fun. It is fun. And you could also associate the heat is being uncomfortable. Yeah. And I get choked up when I'm uncomfortable. I can't speak clearly when I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That's what came to me when you were talking, just.
gotcha. I mean, that was just in general. That wasn't related to the reading.
But it's a great correlation.
It is. It is.
If I don't, if I can't speak clearly when I'm uncomfortable, then that may trigger a piece of anger in me. Like I'm angry with myself that I can't express myself in a healthy way, or express how I'm feeling, or say the words in a clear fashion.
So many different ways, because even thinking about it, I was very angry younger, very angry. Like I was pissed off at the whole world,
Oh yeah,
the
me
whole world, all the time. So it's like I feel like maybe it's just another way of it. You know, I'm not keeping it anymore. I'm letting this stuff is coming to the surface to go. It's time to let it go. It's time to move past it.
And the universe says, we'll just make her hot.
That's right. We'll
turn
we'll
up the
flush
heat,
it out of her. We'll flush it out. That's all.
assholes.
Now it's like, okay, I hear you. How can it get easier than this right now?
How can it get better? Right.
Keeps it exciting. It's always exciting.
And how can it get better? Well, it's there's got to be an energy shift. There's got to be a movement. There's got to be a releasing. There's got to be some inner soul connection, because things can't get better if you're going to stay stuck in your unhealthy emotions. You can't get better if you're going to stay stuck as a victim to your circumstances. There's got to be some inner shifting for life to be better. Otherwise it's not, because it all has to do with your vibration and your energy and your point of attraction, and the people that you're going to bring into your world, good, bad, or indifferent. And nothing's going to change until you change, until I change, until Bev changes. If we want it to be better, we have to be and do better.
Just like that.
Ourselves.
It's just doing it. It's keeping your word to yourself. It's having integrity.
It's evolving
constantly.
Yeah, you don't put a foot on the path of transformation and think that's it, and think it's all done. Like, no, when you step on that path, I don't care if it's pinky toe or your whole foot, your whole body, it's continuous, because now you have the awareness. That's all they need. That's all the universe needs, is your awareness. Oh, we got her attention. She got her pinky toe on the transformation journey. What else can we send to her? Who else can we let her talk to or listen to, or books to read, right? And it'll just start flowing in. But because you have that little bit, like your pinky toenail, you have that little bit of awareness of something different, something better, something that feels good. When you take that pinky toenail off the path of transformation, you'll notice the difference of how much it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And then you'll put maybe your whole pinky toe on the transformation journey, and you'll do a little work, and then you're going to pull it off, and then you're going to put a few more toes on. Like, it's going to be this incremental process, and that's okay, because that's where you're at. It's okay, because that's where you're at right now. But you'll also know that the more transformation you do, and the better things get, and the better things get, the more of you want to put into that transformation.
Because it just feels better. You feel lighter. Life evolves differently. Feels good.
It feels good.
Actually, it feels great.
Feels great.
It
Those
does.
are our words of wisdom today.
That's it. It's pretty solid.
Thanks for showing up.
Yes. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you. Come again.
Thank you. Come again. We'll be back next week. Is that awesome or what?
That's awesome. Because we keep showing up.
And you know what? Even if we weren't here in the physical body, we'd still show up next week, because we're still with you.
Yeah.
And it will be, well, what would Bev say, or what would Amy say in this situation? We will be with you forever and ever and ever, whether we're here physically or in the non-physical.
Know it.
That's it.
And you start playing with that, and you'll start receiving all kinds of information.
Absolutely, for sure. Gotta ask. So thanks for hanging out with Tea Time with Amy and Bev. We'll be back.
Thank you. Yeah,
Just say it.
we'll be back. Set your intentions for a wonderful week. Like make it really magical. Really set and play with that.
Yes.
Intention is everything. Intention in everything we do all day long. It's huge.
So one thing I ask every day is, that I have all the time, space, and energy I need to complete the tasks that need my attention today. And that there's love and joy in every conversation and with every person I come in contact with. So it's every day.
Nice.
So use those words or something similar until you make it your own. And that's part of setting your intention. That is setting an intention. So,
Yes. Love it.
all right, my friends, if you know somebody who will benefit from this conversation or any of the other conversations we've had over the past 2 years, please share us, please, and introduce us to them and let them hear these videos, because we all need help. We all need help, and it's okay.
It's okay.
So we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.